Welcome to Let's Be Well Together podcast. We're your wellness check-in team. Join us each week or when you can. We enjoy exploring wellness concepts and reminding you to make time for wellness.
This is episode 119.
Welcome to another week of Let's Be Well Together podcast. I'm Noura, Saad, and I'm here with John Webster. Hey, John, how are you?
Well, the reason why you can kind of hear Noura smiling a little bit is because we did that a few times. Getting that, let's get well together, let's be well, but we did it. Pretty soon, Noura, you're going to be like this smooth and everything's going to be like perfect.
Yep. I'm going to be singing Smooth Criminal by Michael Jackson coming in here.
Nice. Okay, what do we got today?
I was thinking, I'm sure as you have done work in your line of work, I'm sure you've come across some really interesting and impactful people. And I wondered if there was anyone in your life that inspired you, by something that they shared that left an impact on you. For example, the other day I met someone who was sharing her life story with me and was sharing how at a young age, she had to relocate from her home country and relocate to different parts of the world and even picked up the language and eventually making her way to Canada and, all the changes that comes with that. And just to hear the life that she lived, I was really inspired that after all of it, she was so resilient and just so graceful and, just wanted to share her story with people and they take what they take. And I really, really just was so graced by her. And yeah, that's really where the thought stemmed. So I'm curious to know if you've met anyone that has impacted your life in any way.
I can really take that in a lot of directions. So let me start with the one you mentioned. And by the way, I've met people way before I started my job who have this kind of impact. But somebody does come to mind with kind of a similar story. So I met somebody and they lived in a country where there was a degree of crime and it was difficult to maintain wealth in that country. And this person had a good amount of money, but was starting to feel the pressure and decided to just leave. And in doing that, had to leave everything pretty much behind and came to Canada with almost nothing. But it was more important for him to be safe. And he's a fairly religious person. It was more important for him to stay with his faith, to protect his family. And he had built up wealth. He wasn't born rich, so he had built this up over time. And he just left it all and came to Canada and then was very successful. And he kind of got round two into a really good position, only to have been caught up at no fault of his own with people who were basically fraudsters. Again, he had to make a decision on what to do and ended up, there were other ways to deal with it, but he ended up walking away from some stuff so he could, again, stick to his principles, stick to his faith, stick with his family. And he would rather start building his way up from the bottom again than, fight for everything and do things in a way that he didn't feel comfortable doing. Now, would I do that? I don't know. But I found it really inspiring that this person had such convictions and was so full of peace. That approach, it just really blew me away.
I think especially what's very inspirational is that level of determination, to witness that and to see it's so easy to just give it all up and fall into that trap. But when we get to witness people that are so determined and so passionate and especially wanting to provide for their family, there's something just so admirable about that. So yeah.
What I like about it is that he had every right to be angry. He had every right to be resentful, to become jaded, but he wasn't. He was a very positive person and he surrounded himself with positivity. And I'm a litigation lawyer. I like to fight and I like to win and I don't like to lose. And it's like in the movie Moneyball, I hate losing more than I like winning. So to me, that was a real eye opener. And because of that person and some other things I saw in my life, I've become a lot better at letting go. I've become a lot better at staying positive in negative situations. I still struggle, sure. but it was quite inspiring. What did you take from the person that you met?
I think grace, definitely. And just the resilience. We one of the things we spoke about was her love for Arabic music, as she picked that up when she lived in the Middle East. And I love that throughout all of the hardship, she was graceful and found ways and pockets of happiness, so that really stuck with me.
I've actually been reading more about the Stoics, which is an ancient philosophy I think is largely misunderstood as people thinking it's, keep a stiff upper lip and bad things happen, deal with it. But it's really not that. It's really all about trying to stay yourself, understanding that you can't expect everything good to happen all the time. And that's actually probably a mistake. So if you're the kind of person who is like, I have to make sure everything develops in a positive way, and when it doesn't, that's a failure and I'm going to be unhappy, that's a really challenging way to live your life, because I'm going to tell you, bad things are going to happen in your life. And you're better off, instead of trying to prevent them from happening, is helping understand and train yourself how to move forward when those things happen. And like you say, with any luck, keep the grace, keep the happiness, keep that stuff. So these are great lessons that we're learning from these people we bumped into.
Absolutely.
Now, when you first asked it, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to think. And, I think of when you say people who have impacted your life, there's so many people I feel so lucky to have been around. You just have to think of things like teachers and historical figures and family members of all sorts, philosophers, authors, characters in books, all kinds of things. So like in that context, I'll throw you one that's a bit out of left field. When I was a teenager, I really liked punk and new wave music. So this was like the late 70s, early 80s.
That's awesome.
And you're like, how in the world can that have a positive impact? But it really did have a positive impact, because whatever the music sounds like and however loud and headbanging or whatever you think it might be, there was a lot of really good stuff in it about fairness, about treating everyone with respect, about breaking down the barriers and the systems tilted against us and caring for marginalized people. That stuff was all there. And because I love that music, it really was kind of a part of me going forward. And even a small example, there were a lot of songs and groups at the time, and you could tell that they were LGBTQ type based groups. And so to me, it's never really been an issue. Like, I don't think of that as kind of different. It's just natural. Mm-hmm. And so, as strange as it sounds, a whole bunch of musicians who did punk rock music had a really strong impact on my life, because they hit me right at the right age.
Any songs in particular, John, that I find it fascinating that you now, as a successful lawyer, when you were a teenager, listened to punk music.
I know.
That's awesome.
Well, my favorite group was called The Jam. And
well, there you go.
the lead was Paul Weller, and he wrote some amazing lyrics and some amazing songs, and still does. But, in terms of LGBTQ, for example, there was a song, Small Town Boy by Bronski Beat, that I really liked. And it was a story basically about a young boy who was kind of driven out of the house. And I felt bad, right? And so I kind of became attuned to that and tried to help when I can. Yeah. How about you? If you think about the list of things like teachers and family members and all that other stuff, is there somebody that comes to your mind?
Speaking of teachers, it's interesting. One of my favorite teachers in high school was actually a history teacher, and it was grade 12 history. Her name was Miss Cabral, White Oaks High School in Oakville. She was incredible. It was one of my favorite classes. Mind you, we had the drama kids in that class, so it was quite a theatrical class. And I remember she would have us read all these, thick packages of different readings, historical readings. And to be honest, John, she was just so amazing that you wanted to do the work. You wanted to tell her, oh, Miss Cabral, I learned this. And she just made it interactive. And I remember at one point we did like a mock trial of two characters. I forget who, maybe Napoleon was probably part of that, but it was great. It was a really great time. Yeah, Miss Cabral, history in grade 12. It was a good time.
That is amazing. I had a history teacher in high school too. I think we all have our favorite teachers. And at the time, you don't appreciate it enough. How somebody who so inspires you to want to learn, some of the teachers just brought things to life so much. And in retrospect, you can see how much they gave of themselves to do that. And I like to think back about a lot. And like the problem I have right this minute is I don't want to start my list because
Sure.
it's not going to
Sure.
cover enough people. But
Yeah.
like I had one, and I was telling someone the other day that when I was in high school, I was a bit argumentative at times, you know? And
Go for it.
so I had this one English teacher, I think it was grade 11. He was always, Webster, you're always arguing. You argue like the sky is red when it's blue, like enough already. And then he was handing out assignments one day and he handed out, okay, you're going to do courage and the red badge of courage to one student. And you're going to read, this other book. And it was pretty straightforward. And then he says to me, your assignment is Carl Jung's theory of the doppelganger as exemplified in The Secret Sharer by Joseph Conrad.
Oh my.
And I'm like, what? Like, I don't even know what any of those words mean. He goes, that's your assignment. Right. And I was so mad at him. And I read it, did the assignment, but like I handed it in angry. And it wasn't until a few years after I graduated that I realized he was doing me a favor, because I think he was thinking that it was time for me to do something a little more different than what I was doing. So yeah, teachers from high school, there's some amazing ones. And I was lucky enough to have a whole bunch.
That's awesome. What grade would that have been?
Well, that was grade 11. But for me, actually, when I went to high school, believe it or not, it was grade 9 through 13.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Now it's 9 to 12.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, well, that's a great topic. I'm glad you brought it up. And we'll see you again soon, Noura.
See ya.
Guests are giving their time, expanding our minds. Today's interview is in the category of physical wellness. We are speaking with a professional trainer, Andrea Lee. The world of training is changing along with technology, and Andrea will tell us how she's adapting, with more options for clients. We talk lots on this show about the importance of physical wellness. We hope that more people improve their health with the new options. Welcome, Andrea.
Thank you, John.
Andrea Lee has been certified with the Canadian Professional Trainers Network since 1996, and she's also a CPTN practical assessor. She has a background in post-rehabilitation and holistic nutrition. She began her career in Toronto, working with top industry professionals. She currently resides in Cambridge, and for the past 15 years, she's been running her own personal training studio. She's won the Cambridge Reader's Choice Award for the best personal trainer and overall service several years in a row. It doesn't matter if you're a youth athlete, adult athlete, or general fitness enthusiast. Andrea creates her personal training programs based on her clients' needs. So Andrea, can we start by you telling us a little bit about what the different options are that are available these days?
Absolutely happy to do that. So for personal training, you can find a trainer that is certified and works in a gym, or you can also, there's many trainers that now have home studios like myself. And then there's also trainers that can travel to other people's homes as well.
Yeah, I think historically it's going to the gym and finding someone, and now we have so many different options.
Yes. As well as with regards to online, I think that's the big one that has changed for sure with COVID happening and everything that happened with regards to the gyms having to shut down and being able to then work online with your trainer and be in your own home and have the trainer on one of the virtual platforms like FaceTime or Zoom, and then be able to still continue with your fitness. That has definitely changed.
And is that something you had to adapt to during COVID?
Absolutely. And I still use it to this point, and I will continue actually to use it. It has now become part of my training plans or my training protocol. And how I train is I still have half my clients are on one of those virtual platforms.
Oh, wow, amazing.
And half of them come into the studio.
So what I imagine is by necessity, you start getting on Zoom calls with individual clients who would be coming in. But then I wonder, does it start turning into more of a group thing? So if you're on Zoom, could you have more than one person on a Zoom call at the same time?
You definitely can have more than one. Yes,
cool.
Yes. Other places that people can go to train are also our centers where you can do large group classes.
Right.
So, and they're specific to that. So it's not the same as going to a gym, but you can go to a gym and do a group class
right.
as well. or even a group weight training class. There's also gyms now that are specific to only doing large classes. You go when those classes are available, and it's not open otherwise.
And everybody does the same exercises. It's kind of like this group thing, whether it's
a big, usually
CrossFit or F45 or maybe Orange Theory.
Exactly.
You're working with, in the group, whatever they're offering that day. And you don't go in and say, hey, I want to tailor this to me.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. But that's a nice option. I think what we were going to talk about too is some of my clients utilize some of those facilities as well. So they train with me sometimes once, sometimes twice, but they also enjoy doing those classes as well, or they go with their friends, so they enjoy being with their friends and doing that. So it becomes this hybrid model, and you don't have to stick just to one thing.
I like that you can combine. I know I talked to someone on the show with Mike Keenapple about CrossFit. He loves CrossFit. And I've talked to other people who like some of the other ones.
Yes.
And one of the things, for example, they love is when you're in that big group, there's not only like the camaraderie, but there's like pushing you to do harder and either to beat somebody else or to keep up to somebody else or even just to be part of the group. So there's a lot of energy there.
Yes, the energy is great. And that's what gets you going, right? It helps with that motivation.
And do you find that if you're doing an online class with more than a few people, you kind of get that group dynamic going?
Yes. And then they get to be friends as well, right? Even if they're just virtual friends, but they know that someone else is there for them to, or I'm going to show up because I know that person on the other side of the screen is probably also going to show up and I want to be there. I want to do better. It's great to have that variety. Absolutely. And as a trainer, I then program for my clients around that. So I know what days they go to Orange Theory, say.
Cool.
I don't exactly always know what they might do there because I don't know what those workouts are exactly, but my client can always sometimes check in with me and say, hey, we did a lot of legs today at Orange Theory. I'm seeing you tomorrow. Great. Okay. I'll change around the program if I had too many legs in there. And now we'll do some more upper body focus and some core mobility work. So we work together and it's great. It's a great model to have that flexibility and you don't have to stick to one thing or you don't have to feel bad as some of my clients used to feel bad, almost like they were going behind my back and working out somewhere else. It's like, no, enjoy, do as much as you can.
Yeah, for sure. That's something that I try and say too. Like if you want to have people go out and pay attention to physical health, which I really want them to do, I want them to find things they love.
Absolutely.
And so the more things you love, the better, right? Just because you play tennis doesn't mean you can't play some other sport. And just because you do weight training doesn't mean you can't go to Orange Theory and vice versa.
Correct.
So I think it's fantastic the more things people do, because I think most doctors will say that they want you exercising on average an hour to an hour and a half a day.
Absolutely.
And, you know, we can't all see a trainer every day.
No, we can't.
Now, I imagine what you're talking about right now is there's a class and you're instructing someone in a weightlifting type thing. You mentioned something about online coaching. How's that different than kind of the Teams class or the Zoom class?
Yes, thanks, John. The online coaching, which has also been around for quite a while, but I think it's actually something that's very new to a lot of people, means that you're working with a coach and it is given to you online. The program is sent to you online or it's through an app. You're not spending that 1 hour or that 45 minutes with your trainer one-on-one or with your coach. So if you and I were training online, I would do your intake, figure out how many days a week you want to train, what your goals are. We're going to map it out probably for about 12 weeks. I'm going to create that program and I'm going to send it to you. And then you're going to have everything that you need, your reps, your sets, what exercises you're doing. But then you can choose what day you can fit it in. So you want to work out 3 days a week? Great. The program will be set up for 3 days a week. You can then go ahead and pick which days work best for you in your schedule. It's not at a specific time, because all my clients that come to see me, we have specific times. They have to make that time work, which usually does for them in their schedule. But for some people, this gives them even more flexibility They could do it in the morning, the afternoon, the evening. And then you do check-ins with your coach. So usually once a week, you'll check in with your coach, usually via email, and ask questions, get questions answered, stay on track. And then you go ahead and just keep going through the program and check in with your coach when you need to.
I hate to admit it, but I always do better on these kind of things if I have some kind of accountability.
Yes.
And so more recently, I'm trying to make that accountable to myself. But it's definitely more, I don't know, there's just more to it when you have to account to a third person.
It is. It's always
So I love
hard.
the fact that, you're giving people something to do, you're tailoring it to their experience and their time, but you're also checking in and giving them a chance to ask questions and stuff.
Yes, absolutely. You have to be available still to have that check-in so they can continue to progress.
With all these options now, are you finding that you're working with more people?
Yes, absolutely. I'm working with more people and I want to continue working with more people. So that's why I'm starting to do more of the online coaching so I can have a hybrid model. Have some people that are coming into the studio, some people I work one-on-one with, virtually online where I do see them for the whole hour, and then some people who the online coaching and that flexibility of just having the program for them to work on it themselves when they can, allows me to see more people. It allows me to see more people because it allows for whatever works best for someone, they can pick which one works best for them. And
right. Because I can tell
yeah.
you, like for me, obviously I want everyone to do something. And so I feel bad when I say I can't do something. So I work out on my own. And I get all my workouts in. I don't think I could work with a trainer with my schedule because I'd have to wake up at like 5:30 in the morning, which I can't do. The old model doesn't really work for me, but I can imagine, for example, the online coaching sounds fantastic, where you're saying, here's what you have to do, John. Check in with me once a week.
Yes.
Or even, maybe once a week on a Teams call or a Zoom call. All of a sudden, the possibilities are opening up.
They seem to be endless now. And you can reach more people too. And also if you vibe with someone, because one thing about personal training is it's personal.
True.
You have to vibe with the coach that you want to work with. So I think with the online model of the online coaching, you can work with someone who's not in your city.
Right.
Or they might be in a different province. That's the possibilities are kind of endless there. If you sort of really like the way someone talks or speaks, or they like the way they coach you and show up for you, then that's the person you want to work with. And that's what I like about it as well.
It must be so exciting too, because you must all of a sudden see openings for so much.
Yes.
And so, I'll throw your information on our show notes if people want to get in touch with you from whatever province they want. But the other message is, these things are out there, and if people look for them, they'll find them.
They are.
In different sources.
Yes, absolutely. And you don't have to stick with one of them. So you might use a trainer for a while at a gym. Great, that works well. But then maybe your schedule changes. So how can you then, if you need that little bit of extra motivation, or you're still learning, or you just enjoy having someone write out the exercises for you, so it's one less thing you have to think about. Where can you now go to get that? Well, all these options.
I like the idea of transitioning back and forth between them because, so like my personality is, there's times where I'm really feeling great. I want to get out there. I don't need any kind of encouragement. Mm-hmm. And maybe in those times, I just need some online coaching or something like that. But then I'm starting to get a bit of a rut and I need that accountability. So then maybe I do some Zoom sessions,
yes,
with a group. And then, so you've been here twice before. You talked about the mind muscle connection mm-hmm. and how to breathe during weight training. And just, even though both of those conversations is information I didn't have before, and it's had a really positive impact on my exercise.
Oh, that's good to know.
So then, maybe also I just need to think, in order to do things properly, I should check in with a trainer a couple times a year just to get some tips. So
yes,
I really like this idea of transitioning.
That's a great
A lot of people
comment.
can't afford to go to a trainer all the time.
Absolutely.
So
that's where the group classes work, right?
Exactly.
Much better. They're more affordable. Yes. And then you can go more often, and then you learn, you can do some things on your own. And also, I do have some clients every once in a while that will come in and check in with me every month, maybe every 6 weeks, or we do 5 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks, create the program for them, go through all the workouts, but now they're going to take that and do it for the next 2 months. So it gives you that longer macro cycle, but we've gone through all the workouts. I've cued like how to progress it, but now they can take it, go do it on their own, come back and see me when they're done, need that next check-in. We've done that before too. So there's lots of options out there.
Yeah. And I do say, if you have to budget where you spend your money on your physical health is a great place to budget for it. But the nice thing from what you're saying then is whatever your budget, whatever your time, whatever your motivation level, if you think about the different options and you find a way to transition between them, then you have all the possibilities.
Yes, absolutely. It's doable.
This is terrific, and we hope that lots of people take advantage of these different options. And as you know, we ask every guest the same question.
Yes.
It's in a context where we all have areas of wellness that are important to us, but not enough time to focus on all of them at any given time. So we do a mini wellness check-in. So Andrea, are you currently neglecting an area of wellness in your life? And if so, can you think of even one thing you can do to foster wellness in that area?
Yes, I think one area, John, would be the area of artistic wellness. And because I do really enjoy being creative, but don't always get a chance to do it. And I think that would be one area that I have been neglecting, and getting back to doing some of the photos I like to do or put together, or scrapbooking is one thing I actually really enjoy doing, and just sitting down and creating and seeing the memories of things we did last year and putting those together. That's really fun for me.
Well, I've been on a soapbox trying to highlight that area of wellness that you don't see very often. There's just so many things from music to shows, and scrapbooking is funny because I'm not actually a scrapbooker. But on our 25th anniversary, I got a software program that was kind of like an electronic scrapbook. And I made a really cool scrapbook from each year of our marriage and each of the years our kids were born, and then made this book. So I really got a lot out of scrapbooking.
Yes.
Maybe I'll do that.
Isn't it great?
It is great.
It is.
Okay, well, I better not disclose any more potentially embarrassing stuff that I'm a scrapbooker. So thanks very much, Andrea. We appreciate your time, and going to have you back and talk a little bit about nutrition soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, John.
I'm Cameron, and welcome to another installment of the Adventures of the Starving Artist. A cool thing happened to me today. Super cool, actually. It's an example of my past catching up with me, but not in a bad way, which is kind of nice. Here's the scoop. I was scoping around on the Facebook Ottawa musicians page, helping a buddy look for a bass substitute, and I came across a posting from a guy named Anthony who was looking for a vocalist for a metal project. Now, those of you who don't know or haven't heard, when I was at school in Boston, a huge part of my musical life was modern metal music. I fronted 2 separate metal bands and was the lead villain in a metal opera that ended up touring around the East Coast a little bit. So I'm pretty good at it, and it is one of my passions, as I've talked about in several segments in the past here, if you've been following along. I really, really love the music, and I know, I say it every time, it's not for everybody, and that's totally cool. It doesn't have to be, but I really like it. So I'm scoping around, helping a buddy find a bass player. I stumble across this post, and I think, what the heck, I'll shoot my shot. So I drop the guy a line and say, hey, if you're still looking, here's me. Here's an example of my sound. Feel free to drop me a line here or by email. Hope to hear from you. And nothing happens. Now, this was a few weeks ago. This is normal. In the music industry, 1 trillion people are shooting their shot all the time, and sometimes you just don't get picked. That happens. You move on. Not a big deal. And so I assumed that's what had happened here. But then today, I got a message back in the middle of a lesson, actually. But I got a message back, and it was a huge novel of text that he had typed back at me. But it boiled down to, "Hi, thanks for sending your thing. Love what we're seeing. Checked out your profile. You have credentials, you have qualifications. We're pretty impressed." And that's always nice to hear, hey? "Here are 5 songs. If you could learn at least 2 of them and prepare for an audition on the 31st. Now, at the time of this recording, it's March 27th, and there's absolutely no way that I'll A, have time to learn and master the songs, B, pull off getting to this location and doing the audition, and C, feeling good about any of it, even if I did cram it within the time window. It's not that it's not enough time, it's just that I have too much other stuff on the go right now." So I got back to him and I said, "Listen, man, I'm so excited. Thank you so much for getting back in touch with me. I would love to audition. I'm very much interested, but I just can't make this turnaround time. Is there a time we could reschedule for that's a little later, maybe in early April?" And he got back to me almost immediately and basically said, "Sure, no problem. The next one's going to be April 20th. So that gives me just under a month to get my act together. And with that much time, not only can I learn the 2 songs, I could probably learn all 5 that he sent and master them. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. I have yet to actually listen to the material, but I'm pretty confident I can pull it off." He also sent a whole bunch of info regarding the production value, the professionalism, the fact that everyone's going to be using in-ear monitors. There's full backline, live visuals going on behind the performers as they're performing. So it sounds like a pretty legit production, and I'm excited to scope it out. I'll keep you all in the loop as things progress and develop there. But in a nutshell, a little glimmer of good news. It's nice to be recognized and pulled out of what I'm sure was a pile of applicants, and asked to audition. So I'm feeling pretty good about it. One of these days, maybe I'll give you a glimpse of what those vocals sound like. I know it's not for everybody, so I'm a little hesitant on that, but we'll see. We'll see. For now, that's all I've got. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a fabulous week. I'm Cameron. This is The Starving Artist. Until next time.
We love our listeners and thanks for joining us. Please help spread the word about Let's Be Well Together podcast. Follow us and rate us on Spotify, Apple, Google, or your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram at lets.be.well.together and let your friends know about us.
Move that body like we're meant to do.
Hello, everyone. It's Julie Wilson, and I'm here with Elise Seifert. Hey, Elise. So I have an interesting thing to tell you about today. I was looking at different unique ways of exercising, and I thought to myself, with all of the information and hype and things going on about artificial intelligence right now, I thought, I'm going to ask. And I used Copilot, so it's like ChatGPT, but I used Copilot and I asked it for some unique, but I actually changed that word to unconventional ways of exercising. And it came up with a really awesome list that I've now shared with you. There were a couple traditional rollerblading, skiing, a couple of traditional ways of exercising, but it did come up with some unique ones that we've never talked about. And so I thought, let's take a look at this list. And what is one that stood out for you that seemed to be a little off the regular lists that we've taken a look at?
Such a cool list, and what a way to find it. I love it.
I know.
One that stood out to me right off the bat was batting cages.
Ooh,
I saw this on the list.
Neat, right?
Super fun. I saw this on the list and it just took me back to a time when I was living in South Korea, and a group of friends, we all decided to have a day of hitting things, we called it.
Oh.
So South Korea is a very populated place, like small land size, big population.
Yes.
So everything is built up and there's just not a lot of wide open spaces for your traditional, let's say, baseball diamonds or golf courses. So one day we decided to take advantage of the smaller compact spaces that had batting cages, a bowling alley, and then indoor golf.
Awesome.
And that was a lot of fun. So I know batting cages can be a really good workout. It helps to challenge your hand-eye coordination, which is something I really need to work on. I'm not super skilled at that. But it also gives you a great workout for your upper body strength and your stamina.
Oh, for sure.
What about you, Julie?
Yeah, there's one that stood out for me, and it was that zorbing. In the description, it talks about roll down hills inside a giant inflatable ball, fun and challenging. So right away, that got me thinking about, and I don't know if you've done this, but I have with friends and also with my sons on various teams for parties, the bubble soccer, I think they called it, and it maybe even they reference zorbing, but you play soccer in these giant bubbles. It is the most difficult workout. Like, talk about leg strength. If you get knocked over in one of those things, the strength that you need to get back up again, right?
Yes.
So I could just imagine rolling down in this giant ball and then walking back up the hill to go and do it again. That must be a major workout, but fun.
But fun. It reminds me of sledding, you know, the fun of going down the hill and then you got to trudge the sled back up the hill, kind of like that.
Yes. My brothers and I, behind my parents' house, they had a massive hill. And we often talked about, you know, wouldn't it be a great idea if we hooked up a pulley system so that we could hold the toboggans up the hill, like you said, so you could, we never ever did because then, you know, and to this day, when we go back, we're all just so tired walking up and down the hill, but it's great exercise and lots of fun.
Definitely.
So something similar. Yeah. Is there any others that stood out for you on this list?
Yes, I know animal flow stood out to me just because I didn't really know what it was. So the description is mimic animal movements for a dynamic body weight workout.
Oh, that's different.
Sounds really interesting. I know it's something I do a lot with my young kindergarten students where we play games like red light, green light, where we're just practicing stopping and going. And then we change our movements to mimic different animals. So now we're going to move like a cheetah, or now we're going to move like a fish or a bird. But I had never thought of doing it myself as an adult.
Great way to exercise without, again, we've talked about this in the past of not really, you know, you don't realize you're exercising, but that would be, you know, just even you doing it with your kids in class, right? You're exercising and having fun doing it. Before we go, there's one there, urban exploration. And I thought, that's really unique. You know, explore abandoned buildings or unique city spots. You plan your day, new city, and you're exercising while you're exploring. That's, again, tons of fun and getting a great exercise.
There's a thought. Popped up while running. I've been so busy the last couple of years, including putting together the podcast every week, work, and a whole bunch of stuff. So even me, who comes on this podcast every week talking about staying in touch with things, making sure you do your physical side, I stopped doing something that had brought so much joy to my life. I had fallen in love with distance running, and that changed everything for me. I started to think more about wellness. I came up with my breakthrough about the different categories and an approach to holistic well-being. That all happened while I was running, after I fell in love with distance running. I trained for marathons. I was doing all these marathon plans where you have to do high intensity one day and hills another day and this and that. And then I don't know, it just kind of petered out a bit. I ended up kind of half-heartedly training for my last marathon in 2022. I wasn't really into the training. And then even after London, which turned out to be such an amazing running experience, that marathon, and it should have reinvigorated me, I kind of let my kilometers slip each week. And then I'd get an injury, and then I'd let it slip a bit more, and then I just wasn't kind of feeling it.
Then I kind of dropped down to making sure I did at least one run of 10 kilometers a week, which is part of this streak I'm doing. But my other ones were pretty short. Skip forward. I'm not really feeling like myself these days. I'm not really the version of myself that I enjoy feeling. And I realized I feel better when I'm a distance runner. And to be a distance runner, I have to run distance. So I decided I've got to start stretching out my miles. That's what's happening now. I'm going to increase my Tuesday and Thursday runs, and I'm going to increase my long run on the weekend. I've already done it for 2 weeks, and I can already feel like it's working. I already feel like I'm a teeny bit closer to that version of myself that I want to be.
It's me. Am I?
Yeah. Just let me say, flip side of the coin.
I was talking to someone the other day, and they were talking about a sport. It was soccer and a particular league. It's kind of all they talk about, right? This person gets specialized TV channels, and I don't know anything about it. And then it made me just start thinking, there's so many things in life where I'm talking to someone and you can tell it's their whole life. Maybe it's a hockey team. Maybe it's a sports team of some other type. Maybe it's video games. Like, who knows what it is, but their whole life is built around some hobby or something.
Or even work. Like, there's some people I've talked to that their work is all they know about. That's all they want to talk about is what they do. And it's something that, like, not only do most of the rest of us not know about, but we don't really care. No.
like if you want to talk about Australian rules rugby, and if that's your whole life, okay, I'm not judging you, but I don't care.
And it's just really hard to have a conversation with someone when that's all they want to talk about and you don't know anything about it. You're like, you can only say, oh, that's interesting. And, oh, that's nice. Let's talk about the weather. Like, there's nothing really you can talk about.
So it reminded me of this old Greek expression, everything in moderation, which, by the way, is kind of funny because do you emphasize the everything or do you emphasize the in moderation?
I like the everything.
I think it's probably moderation. Like, I don't think that means you have to try literally everything, but if there's something you're doing, in moderation. And I'm thinking, because I don't know, like, should I think about the meaning of life? Should I think about total happiness? How can you get to these places if your life revolves around some kind of nuancy thing that most of the world doesn't know about?
Yeah. And I find when I'm having conversations with people, I don't mind talking a little bit about it, the moderation kind of thing. I'll talk about it. I'll try and learn a little bit from them. But like, I like to move on and talk about other things. Do you have other interests? Is there anything else that we can talk about? Common grounds that I can maybe be involved with.
In my theme of not trying to be judgy about other people. So if that's how they choose to live their life, I'm not saying that they shouldn't. What I'm saying is it makes me think about my own life. Mm-hmm. And are there things that I get too carried away with? Like, it just reminds me that I'm the kind of person that has kind of the obsession of the day.
Yes.
Right? So one time it's some video game. Mm-hmm. That happened for a while. Mm-hmm. Right now, Sheila's laughing because I'm trying to learn how to dance.
I'm not laughing.
Which is really crazy because I'm trying to learn how to dance and I'm trying to make playlists. And in making playlists, that also means I'm listening carefully to the music and trying to count, which is something I'm not that great at, but Sheila does naturally.
It's very funny.
I'm trying to do all this stuff and Sheila's always wanted me to learn how to dance and then she just laughs at me when I do it.
The one thing I find really funny is he'll be looking at a video, watching this couple learning this new step, and he watches it for like half hour. He's watching it and getting the
3
nuances.
minutes.
No. And then he's like, oh, I've got this new step I want to teach you. Like, I want you to look at. So I look at it twice, got it. And he's like, what? What do you mean you've got it? I'm like, oh yeah, no, I've got it. This is easy. And he's like been watching it for 30 minutes.
Yeah. So I have my obsession of the day and this one's a good one.
Yeah, this is a good one.
I'm not going to say the podcast is an obsession of the day, but it's something that I need to spend time on to keep producing. But it reminds me that, this person reminded me, I've got to be careful when I'm talking to other people. And I know the greatest example for me when I'm doing a marathon.
Oh, yeah.
And this happens with all marathon runners. If you're training for a marathon, just don't talk to people about your training and running.
Only answer questions.
Yes, because I've seen so many eye rolls.
Oh my God. Like anyone who's running a marathon. And I do have to admit that you have to obsess about it. Like, it has to be inside you. You got to, because it's so demanding.
Yeah.
And I think we all get into these little niches that we get obsessed with something, maybe by choice or maybe because that's what your work is. You're getting obsessed with whatever that is. And then you open up the door, you're talking to someone, you're like, what do you mean you don't know anything about, this or that? It's like, how can you not, right? And then you have to adjust the way you're thinking.
I think I've gotten better over time. It's really hard. And I love watching all the memes and whatnot on Instagram with that same theme about just stop talking about your stupid running. And that's the reminder to me. So working towards balance, whether it's in anything, relationships or life or anything, it's really dangerous to get so focused on one kind of obscure thing that, of course, you don't think is obscure.
Exactly. So back to that theory, everything in moderation.
Everything. Please remember that we're not providing advice. We hope to inspire you to work towards balance, and we urge you to consult with qualified people if you need advice. The people on the show are speaking in their personal capacities. Their views expressed are their own, and don't represent the views or opinions of their outside contacts, their employers, or anyone else. We try to get things right, but we can't guarantee everything we say is correct, or that the things we talk about will work for you. Let's be well together, and let's be sure to do that in a safe way. It is sign-off time. It's John here with Sheila and Elise.
Hi.
Hello.
I have survived another week of being home alone. No major catastrophes that I will admit to, so that's going all right. I did have a terrible experience this week. I bought something at a store, and you want the receipt? Sure. I grabbed the receipt. I went home, and for some reason I looked at the receipt, and there was a senior's discount on it. I was like, what?
Oh my God.
It said senior's discount over 55. I'm like, I didn't ask for this. I didn't say anything. That means people just look at me now and give me a senior's discount. So that was
Oh my God.
a little crazy.
How much was it for? 10% or something?
It was some minuscule amount, just enough to just like rub the salt in. Maybe like 2% or 5% or something really small.
Oh.
I had another great week of getting all my runs in and getting different kinds of runs in and feeling good and getting all my weight workouts in. So I'm feeling pretty good on that side of things. And how are you doing in Portugal, Sheila?
Very nice. It's a little rainy today. We did a tour in Lisbon. That's where I am right now. And we did a bus tour. We went to visit a castle called the Penne Castle. And we went to Sintra. It was a whole day tour. It was lovely. We love the water. And I went kayaking on the ocean. So I'm having a fabulous time here. I'm learning so much about Portugal. It's just really exciting. I finished my yoga retreat and I'm coming home in 2 days. So, wow, time flies.
So I only have 2 days to clean the place up?
Yep, you have 2 days left to clean up the place. I'm coming home.
I don't think we can really call what I do cleaning, but I can tidy.
Yeah, you can make it look good. And what about you, Elise? What's new with you?
Well, it sounds like you're living the dream, and that's amazing. I've had a pretty relaxing week. I do have some big school events that I'm organizing coming up this week. So I suspect it will be a really busy school week, a really busy work week. Some whole school events that we have going on just to celebrate the special week we always have in May. So right. I find, I'm going to bed and I'm going through all of the things that I need to do throughout the week. So that's always tricky. So I'm just looking forward to that going well and being a success.
That sounds great.
Thanks so much for joining us this week. And we look forward to you joining us again soon.
That is it for today's show. Please try and make wellness a priority.
You deserve it.
If you feel the need to talk to someone or ask for help, please do that.
Accept yourself for the person you are. So long.
Adieu.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye.